Hello and welcome back to Higher Maths Functions and Graphs Composite Functions. We are looking at an old exam question. This exam question has a challenging amount of algebra in it. So let's go straight into it. A function f is defined on the set of real numbers by f of x equals x over 1 minus x. X is not equal to 1, so remember our set notation and our restrictions on the domain here, guys. So we can't divide by 0, so that is what this statement is here for. Okay, because without that statement, the question would not be mathematically correct. Apart from that, this doesn't really affect how you do the question. You can not ignore it, but if you understand why that's there, that's good. If you don't worry about it too much. Find in its simplest form an expression for f of x. Right, so how do we find f of x? Well, we'd write f of x, and then we're going to replace f of x with whatever it is, which is x over 1 minus x. So in a 3-mark exam question like this, 3 marks, there it is, our first mark would be given for doing that. Okay, so on 1 out of 3, for what have we done? We've substituted in. So for those of you that like to shortcut your working and have not been doing that, or are thinking about not doing that, make sure you do it, for goodness sake. Our second mark is for this next line here. So wherever I have an x in the original function here, I'm going to replace it with whatever's in the bracket. So again, like I was saying last time, f of 7 would be 7 over 1 minus 7. F of a, sorry, f of a would be a over 1 minus a. F of a over b would be a over b all over 1 minus a over b. F of a over 1 minus a, again, wherever I've got that, wherever I've got an x, I'll replace it with everything in the bracket here. So it'll be a over 1 minus a all over 1 minus a over 1 minus a. So f of x over 1 minus x, I'm going to have to replace this, x over 1 minus x. I'm going to substitute that in, sorry. I'm going to substitute that in for both of these x's. So this x on the top would become x over 1 minus x. This x on the bottom would become x over 1 minus x. And obviously this 1 minus needs to be there as well. So in a 3-mark exam question, that is our second mark. Okay, so 2 out of 3. Now the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines for our third mark, okay? So the point is, even if you're looking at it thinking, I'm not sure, or I might get a little bit stuck on this, or in the past I've struggled with this type of question, you should be thinking 3 marks, 2 of those marks will be in the bag for doing the first 2 lines. Right, we have a fraction divided 1 minus a second fraction. So if we can just make it a fraction divided by another fraction, then we can flip the fractions upside down and multiply them. Okay, just like doing 1/3 divided by 4/5, I would do 1/3 multiplied by 5/4. So what I need here is a common denominator. So I'm going to rewrite 1 whole as 1 minus x over 1 minus x. So the reason why I've done that is because the denominator here is 1 minus x. So I want to write this denominator as 1 minus x. So say I was doing minus 3/4, I would change this 1 into 4/4. Okay, so I'm doing the same thing I would do with numbers, but there just happens to be letters involved. Right now, for the denominator of the large fraction, of the whole fraction, I have a common denominator. So 1 minus x minus x. So the numerators would become 1 minus 2x all over 1 minus x. Now I can flip and multiply. So I get x over 1 minus x multiplied by 1 minus x over 1 minus 2x. Now I can cancel these two. So that's a bit of National 5 algebra there, guys. And I'm left with x over 1 minus 2x. And as a good young mathematician, or maybe a slightly older mathematician, I'm going to write the restriction on the domain, because I know we can't divide by 0. So if 1 minus 2x is not equal to 0, add 2x to both sides, divide through by 2, x cannot equal 1/2.